Welcome back to Creative Excuses and to the second episode of my Arcane Archer series. We are making our way through every class to see if I can make a functional and magical bow build with the tools available, and here we are covering the Warden by your request. The Warden makes a pretty solid Arcane Archer, capable of clearing out the hardest world boss I've run into, and of scoring pretty well in Vateshran Hollows. Over 300k, actually up to 306k, but it is slightly worse than the Dragonknight that we covered first. The Warden excels at a few things that make it well suited to a solo playstyle, but it has a few tricks up its sleeves for group content that we can talk about a little bit later. For now, let's jump into the solo setup. The sets we are using here are pretty much my standard Arcane Archer sets, but in case you haven't seen the Dragonknight video or read the update to my sorcerer, I'll go over them here. The first set is the one that makes this whole one-bar Arcane Archer vibe work in the first place, and it is my favorite set in the game. Point Blank Snipe from Vateshran Hollows. The reason this set is so important and so good is that it adds a massive amount of damage to our main spammable, which is super important for one-bar builds. You see, one-bar builds do not have a lot of room for damage over time skills, so they need either rip-roaring heavy attacks or absolute god-tier spammables to carry their damage. Add in the fact that this is a solo build and you end up needing your spammable to carry even more of your damage, because usually there's one or more skills devoted to your survivability. Space is tight, so you need a spammable skill that pumps out numbies. And Snipe is a skill that pumps some numbies. Thanks to its cast time, it gets extra damage in its power budget, and thanks to the guaranteed Sunder proc, it hits really hard. Add in the amazing bow passives that buff the damage by 25%, and now the Vateshran bow, which throws another 33% damage on it, and you have a recipe for an amazing spammable. Our second set is another two-piece set here, and we have some options. You can run Storm Fist, which is going to help with your sustain a bit and deal some really good damage. This is probably the best option on this setup, unlike on the Dragonknight, but there are a few other options like Zon and Maw of the Infernal, which are pretty good as well, but the sustain from Storm Fist and its ease of use make it the preferred option for the Warden. Next up is a simple two-piece set that gives a line of penetration so that we can get as close as possible to the 18,200 penetration cap without going over it. Don't skip on this, it is super good. I'm using Pestilent Host here, but you can use any two-piece set that has a line of penetration for its first stat bonus. For reference, in fights where this line of penetration matters, this two-piece set can be worth like 6% of your damage, so it is very valuable. Don't skip this. Of course, we also have Oaken Soul, which gives us all of the juicy buffs that we love so much. There are very few one-bar builds that perform better without Oaken Soul than with it, and those ones are probably in a trial group where you're getting a crap load of buffs anyway. So put in the work to hunt this mythic and you are not going to regret it. Finally, our 5-piece set. Like most of these one-bar Arcane Archer builds, we can use Threads of War for very good damage output. Threads of War makes your light attacks proc sundered every time you hit one, which is very strong, but just as important, its 2 through 4-piece bonuses are great. Especially, again, that line of penetration, which we still need to hit that 18,200. Now, this is where I was supposed to say that the new Warden class set is better than Threads of War, but it's not. Not really. It's pretty much the same if you want to use it, so go for it. And if not, Threads is a great choice. And it's available now, whereas Ares Cry comes out next patch. Now, about the Warden set, Ares Cry causes your light attacks to mark a single target at a time and deal increased damage with your animal companion skills like your bear, your shulks, and growing swarm. That 10% extra damage is pretty significant even with only those 3 skills. Additionally, you get a Warden-themed Unfathomable Darkness proc, which hits reasonably hard, but it's nothing insane. Overall, Ares Cry is basically on par with Threads of War, both parsing around 50 to 52,000. However, there's one glaring downside to Ares Cry. It has a sound effect that is always on when the full 5-piece set is equipped, and it is a horrible sound. It's a high-pitched squeal similar to like coil whine from a GPU or like really bad digital noise reduction from an audio recording. It is awful. And until that is fixed, I will not be using this set. Now, unfortunately, while testing this stuff, I did give Reliquin a shot, and if you have it, it is still one of the best possible single target damage sets for bosses, where you can get the proc stacked up and keep it up. I managed to hit 55k DPS with Reliquin on, even without hitting pen cap, which is just gross, and I hate it. Luckily, Threads of War is a little more versatile because it hits almost as hard and does not require any stacks to build up, which is super beneficial in real content, especially Vateshran Hollows, when you have to switch targets very often. While we're here though, Ansel's Torment is also pretty good. It performs pretty much the same as Threads of War, but has a higher ceiling in fights where you can interrupt enemies often. But again, this build functions really well with Threads of War. You don't need these trial sets. The combination of these sets just work really, really well. But like all builds, there is more to it than just the sets. So let's go over the skills, the champion points, mundus, weights, traits, and consumables. For skills, we have Focused Aim. We already talked about this, but it hits so insanely hard. It is the cheaper morph, which is great for sustain, and because we are spamming the skill, the poison ticks from the other morph give you almost no benefit over the Sundered procs, so this is definitely the better morph for this build. Second, we have the quintessential solo Warden skill, Deep Fissure. This gives us all of the penetration that we can easily get from debuffs, providing both major and minor breach, which is almost 9,000 penetration on its own. On top of that, this is the Warden's classic semi-spammable skill, hitting like an absolute monster in area of effect. This skill is 100% essential to the build. The other morph Sub-Assault can be better in group play if the penetration debuffs are already provided for, but it can be taxing on sustain, so I would stick with this morph anyway. Next up is the classic Ice Palace for 1, Winter's Revenge, which is just a very solid area of effect dot that comes with a pretty solid chance for chilled procs thanks to our charged bow and Warden passives and the skill itself. This is your best area of effect dot, and it is very valuable to have on the build. Fourth, we have a bit of a surprise slot. On the Dark Elf version of this build, which I think is the highest damage, I have Bullnetch, simply for sustain. The passives from it are nice with the extra crit damage, and the extra damage done when it doesn't purge an effect is also nice, but honestly, it's there because putting a Stamina or Magicka skill there was insanely hard on my sustain. If you are a more sustain-oriented race, you may not need this and can put something there for damage like Barbed Trap or Poison Injection, Structured Entropy, or even a Fighter's Guild skill just for passives or the AoE spammable Silver Shards. For me though, I'm going with Bullnetch. It worked and it performed really well. Our last normal skill is a bit of a flex spot. There's a lot of options here, so we're going to go over them. In situations where you want a very solid all-around skill, Arctic Blast is a very good option. The skill got a big rework this patch that I'm not super happy with, but it is still very strong for damage. This deals area of effect spammable damage and has a damage over time portion, all of which has a higher chance to proc chilled, which is part of what makes it so good. The skill also has the ability to function as a burst heal, if nothing is damaged by that initial area of effect. That makes it super unreliable as a burst heal though, but you can use it if you're clever and quick to roll dodge and back out of range of enemies. Now, the first flex option here though is Growing Swarm. This is a fantastic class dot. It adds minor vulnerability for an extra 5% damage taken. It can contribute to better hemorrhaging uptimes for more status effect damage, and it hits an area of effect around the primary target, which is good for cleave in real content. Another option is the other morph of the same skill, Fetcher Infection, which contributed to a parse where I hit 54k damage per second, and that was without Reliquin, which is pretty much on par with the Dragonknight setup, though I did have very good crit luck on that parse, which matters quite a lot. Overall, I think Fetcher Infection is the top damage option, Growing Swarm is close by, and Arctic Blast is almost as much or the same as Growing Swarm, but with different usage conditions and an unreliable burst heal attached to it. All three of those are really good options. There is one more flex option here though, and it's a pretty neat one that allows for an interesting support DPS role in a dungeon, and that's Green Lotus. Green Lotus is a cheap magic skill from the Warden class healing skill line that makes your light and heavy attacks proc healing on yourself or nearby allies. Thanks to the Warden's passives, it also makes this skill very, very good for sustain while healing allies, including your bear, which is very useful for killing world bosses or soloing world events. I used this skill when soloing the hardest world boss in Weald for the extra healing per second, and to keep my Build-A-Bear buddy alive to tank some extra hits for me. You do lose some damage not running a damage skill here, of course, but the build still hits plenty hard. But here's the thing. You can actually flex out one more skill to become part of a really interesting 3 DPS composition for dungeons, not trials, without sacrificing too much damage. You can drop the Winter's Revenge that you have on there for Budding Seeds, the Warden's 6-second long area of effect heal over time, and absolutely massive burst heal. Even while keeping Budding Seeds and Green Lotus up, I managed to hit 42,000 DPS. Those aren't crazy numbers by any stretch, but they are solid for a 3 DPS comp with 2 full DPS players on the side. And you are providing a burst heal capable of eating through some of the more recent heal absorption effects that they keep putting into dungeons. You can also give a synergy to your tank or your other DPS for a few resources from the Undaunted passive, and you're providing light and consistent auto-targeted heals to your team while providing a very reasonable amount of damage. I'm not saying you should do this, but I am saying this could be a very viable support DPS in a somewhat coordinated 3 DPS team comp for dungeon trifectas. Not every dungeon is going to be suited to this setup, but it could work and could be fun if your group wants to try it out. You can also swap out Budding Seeds for the other morph, Corrupting Pollen. You'll lose the ability to manually trigger the burst heal, but you gain the ability to put Minor Cowardice on enemies, which will reduce their damage done to your entire party. I prefer Budding Seeds, but Corrupting Pollen can be very good as well. Anyway, onward to the last skill. Our ultimate, which I already mentioned, is the good old Build-A-Bear Wild Guardian, because it procs hemorrhaging a ton, which is great for damage, and it deals very good damage without ever having to be activated, which allows us to sit at 500 ultimate and reap the health recovery rewards from our champion points. Absolutely love this guy, and no Warden build feels complete without the bear out. On to the rest of the build stuff. For the champion points, here is a list. These are pretty standard. The big one here is Reaving Blows, which is great for healing on builds with the Vatashran bow, because the skill just hits so hard. 7% of 30k is pretty high. If you find that you don't need it though, like maybe the health recovery in Arctic Blast is plenty, well, awesome. Swap it out for more damage. For the red champion points, here's another list. The important one here is Strategic Reserve, which gives us 1500 health recovery unbuffed thanks to our wonderful bear ultimate. After buffs, we should have around 2500 health recovery, which is amazing for keeping us healthy in fights without a lot of healing over time on the build. And here are our consumables. We got Bewitched Sugar Skulls and Tri-Stat Potions, both of which are very important because we are using every single stat, buff, and resource that they return. You will run out of magicka without tripods, you will run out of stamina without tripods, and you want the health recovery from the sugar skulls, and it is the best way to get big stat pools all around. Here are the armor and weapon traits, and then chance. The important thing here is the light armor piece is extremely valuable because it adds 1k-ish penetration, which we need to hit just 200 shy of the penetration cap, which is perfect. If you are a wood elf, however, you can drop that piece of light armor and run 7 medium. You'll just be about 300 penetration shy, which is fine. Finally, for the Mundus Stone, we want the Lover Mundus because it helps us hit that 18,000 penetration mark. And for our race, I think Dark Elf is the highest damage, and then likely Orcs. Every other race is perfectly viable, but will lose more damage in exchange for something else like sustain, healing, defenses, versatility, movement speed, etc. Every race has advantages, and the build can likely be slightly altered to suit any of them and get very comparable performance. So don't go changing your race just to make this build. Alright, I think that is everything, so let's get on to the gameplay. Enjoy this solo Harrowstorm and World Boss from the new West Weald chapter. Here we go, we are at a Harrowstorm. I have not attempted this yet. So we're just gonna give it a shot. I don't see this being a problem though. The damage is high, the healing is insane. Like, the bear shouldn't die, I shouldn't die, it should be great. And so far, that does look like it's the case. The bigger problem is there's just this annoying gargoyle thing in my face. Just stunning my brains out. Alright, there's a second monster. Oh, it's a werewolf. Okay, I was clearly not in front of that, but it's fine. I want them to attack my bear. That's what I want. Having to break free is costing so much stamina, though. I'm gonna get a heavy attack in. Yep. So I guess the area of effect damage on this is really good, but it's not good at this like tower defense minigame. Because we're getting a lot of these guys spawned. A little bit of lag there. Let's kill this guy. He's annoying me. So if you like stayed here, you know, with a tank test, how many of these guys can she spawn before she actually, you know, rules the world? We should get out of the way of whatever that area of effect was. But you can see the survivability is insane. Bear, could you be healed? Okay, I commanded the bear to attack the pike. So now he should be healed. And my sustain will be basically infinite. Oh, not a flesh Atronach. And pop. There we go. I think it's going to be the big flamey boy. Yep, that guy. Oh, they killed my bear. They managed it. And we're just going to run in circles. And occasionally heavy attack when we get stunned out of our snipe. Perfect. So the bear is taking damage. What's he taking damage from? I don't even know. But he's safe. He's fine. Uh-oh. I remember when Harrowstorms used to be super spooky for me to solo. And now they're not so bad. Maybe that's just the builds that I've been making are way better than they used to be. It's probably that. This running in circles is hilarious, though. He's almost done. Gotta watch out for the stuns. Easy peasy. That was so fast. Oh, I guess I have to kill these? I forgot about that part. We'll just kill this one since he's right here. Alright, got him. Easy peasy. For real this time. 5 minutes and 30 seconds. First try, too. Not bad. Let's check out the fight really quick. So the Harrowstorm Titan, we did 38k damage per second. Like in content, while avoiding stuns, running in circles, and not in close range. So that's pretty solid. Alright, let's go on to the next thing. This is like such a bad idea, but we're gonna try it. We just need the AoE damage. All right. All right, we're doing some numbies. And the bear can handle one of them for a long time. Summon him. Get that back out. Nope, get out of that. I would like a heavy attack. No, no. Heavy attack. Oh, heavens. Summon the bear, summon the bear, summon the bear. Hit him with the AoE. Let's get rid of this little mage boy. Oh my gosh. All right, so this fight is just kill ads. Kill ads as hard as you can. Oh gosh, it's not done. How is it not done? It's... Oh, I'm so stressed. Are you kidding me? Attack the bear. Yeah. Build a bear for the win. This is harder than the Harrowstorm. Unironically. Die. 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 Oh, man, that was hard. Okay, I think the bosses in this zone are insane. Anyway, that's the build. I didn't expect to throw on acid spray, but like that's not necessary in Vodashran Hollows. Yeah. Let me show you the Vodashran Hollow score that I got really quick. All right, I wasn't planning on doing this for this video, but whatever, we're here. And we're having a good time. That last fight was super laggy. I don't know what was going on there, but my skills were just not going off. Like I was stuck in the snipe animation. But if this fight doesn't lag like that, then we are going to be cruising. Make sure we get that potion off. We do not have a burst heal slotted right now, which is okay. I dropped the dot on that mage just in time. There we go. He's dead. You're still in my area of effect. Uh-oh. Okay. Not great, not terrible. Honestly, we're doing just fine. Let's get a heavy attack in if I can. I did not. Stamina sustain is a little tight. There we go. Heavy attack is helpful. Growing Swarm is very tight on stamina. I will say that. Fetcher Infection is not nearly as tight. It's a little tighter on Magicka, but stamina it's fine. I just want to make sure we get these down. They're not actually gonna like add much damage. And I want to get a dot there. Good, we got a potion. Oh no. Why are you so far away? Kill the mage. Alright, mage is dead. That sniper over there, the snipe spammer just like me, is being annoying. Oh, we have no sustain. We are absolutely redlining sustain here. Okay, we're good. 306. That's absurd. There is the actual leaderboard score for this build. This is what I got before, 301.8. Obviously, it is capable of much more than that at 306. That is insane. Man, my sorcerer has so far to go on score. I think the top end my sorcerer has done is 303, 304. So I've got another 2 minutes to shave off on that time. Let me know which class you guys want to see next. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe you'll like the Dragonknight video that I did last week. Go check that out here, and I'll see you all in the next excuse.